Well, guys, it's official. The cat is out of the bag, but the tension and withholding of that secret is not even close to over. Hey guys, Cameron for the Americans, Season 4, Episode 11, Dinner for 7. I was definitely looking forward to this episode, obviously. I mean, this season has just been killing it, and this probably was the best episode of the season, without a doubt. I mean, there were so many amazing things about just this one episode. It was such an eventful episode as well. There was so much going on, and especially because, if you guys don't know, recently the Americans just renewed for a 5th and 6th final season, which I am very happy about, because they're going to be able to tell this story thoroughly. They don't have to rush things. They don't have to worry about next season's the final season. No, next season really is a season where they need to start, certain things need to happen. This season is more of setting up those final 2 seasons, and I really do like that. But this was, like I said, another amazing episode. So much is going on. Let's just get into it because there's a lot to talk about, and like I said, very eventful stuff. So basically, we start off with Pastor Tim. He's at Elizabeth and Philip's front door, and it's the first time they've seen him since he got back from his mission, because of course last week's episode revolved all around Pastor Tim. What I like about this is that we actually get to see a lot of Pastor Tim in this episode. He's not just a plot device that, oh, he's missing, or, oh, we need to not tell him this. You know, that actually feels like Pastor Tim is a part of the action now, as well as his wife. I can't think of her name now, but she's also part of the action. Tim tells Elizabeth and Philip, though, that he feels horribly about Alice threatening them, because remember Alice said, look, if you're responsible, I'm going to go tell the FBI about this. And basically, Pastor Tim says that when he was missing, he did a lot of things and even thought about them and Paige. And you can see that he's really starting to turn things around, because we know, essentially, Tim and Alice were very against them being KGB. You can tell that this, him going missing and him being on this trip and everything, has really gotten him to rethink things. And Elizabeth invites him and Alice over for dinner later that week, and it's a very important scene, very pivotal stuff, because that really sets up what the most important scene in this episode is. Eventually, it's not as big now, but it's eventually going to be a big scene. I really love the way that was done. But I really love the way the episode started. Right away, you can tell there's tons of tension, because Tim is really starting to turn himself around. You really are starting to see him as a full-fledged character, and he really is starting to go some character developments. He's no longer just Paige's pastor. He's also someone that knows a lot more than he should, and because that, he's got involved in this situation, and he doesn't really want to get out of it. But now, he's not really concerned about getting out of it. He's more concerned about helping them. He actually wants to help them. He wants to get out of it. He wants to, continue holding the secrets, and I definitely really did like seeing that. And then we get to the main stuff in this episode, which of course we know last week Elizabeth and Gabriel, they had the conversation where Elizabeth asked Gabriel, is there another way to close out this mission with Dawn and Yeon-hee, because obviously she doesn't want to cause any more damage. Dawn is already, on the verge of, I don't know if it's suicide necessarily, but things are already not really good for them. So she heads to the safe house to meet with Gabriel, and he has very bad news that the center turned down Elizabeth's request. But here's the thing, you don't really know if the center turned it down, or if Gabriel even told them about it. I feel like Gabriel didn't even tell him about it, because we know that Gabriel always sticks with the mission, and what he wants goes over everything. I feel like Gabriel would be just as, he's such a conniving person, that I do feel that Gabriel would, in fact, not, tell them the truth about this, that he would hold this secret from them, that he wouldn't go along with it, and that he would basically do just what he wanted to do. And basically, Elizabeth has to move forward with what they talked about, whether she wants it or not. And it's this very sad scene. We see she heads to the safe house, and basically Elizabeth then heads to Yeon-hee's house, and Dawn answers the door, and he's home alone. His wife took the kids to school, and she barges in, and this is when she has to tell him this truth that really isn't true, but she basically has to do this, and it's probably one of the most powerful scenes we've had all season, just because of the way this is done. This episode in many ways is very similar to Travel Agents in the sense that it really deals with the anguish and pain going on with pretty much every member of what they have to do and what Elizabeth and Philip's job requires them to do. They did a great job doing this with Philip and Travel Agents, and they do an even better job at doing this with Elizabeth and with Dawn and Yeon-hee, because Elizabeth we've always known to be not as emotionally affected, but nothing really prepares her for what ends up happening in this scene. We see she basically has to go to Yeon-hee's house, she barges into the house, and she has to tell Dawn that she's pregnant, and she's really putting on this great act that she's pregnant, and really is trying to guilt him into it, and basically Dawn tells Elizabeth that she can't have the baby, it would destroy Yeon-hee, and he offers to pay for the abortion, because obviously he doesn't really want to have this baby, and he basically thinks that they're going to have an abortion. So Elizabeth snaps that she doesn't want anything from him, storms out of the house, and she's pissed that he actually wanted this baby. What I love about this scene is that Dawn's not even a major character, but you really care about him because he's really getting screwed over in the sense that she's making you think she really does care and she really just wants want this baby. The thing is, though, that the difference between this and Elizabeth's other scenes is that she actually does really care. The look on her face of anguish and pain and just bitterness is not because of course, the pregnancy, because the pregnancy is not actually happening, but she is actually really upset about this. She doesn't really want to have to do things this way. She wanted to do this in a much different way, but unfortunately Gabriel didn't let her, and Carrie Russell, I think, just kills it here, because the look on her face, I mean, you can just tell, even though she has this facade that's obviously not true, I think they did a really great job. Patty, of course, you know, Elizabeth playing Patty is right here. That's who she's pretending to be. I think they did a great job with showing how affected Elizabeth really is. You know, she's not usually as affected by things, but this is really getting to her in a way she's never really felt before, and that's something I think they showed really well here. I really enjoyed that, and it really added to this entire episode, something that really I enjoyed, because, like I said, Philip's usually affected, but Elizabeth's not, and this is one of those examples where Elizabeth is even, I think, more affected than Philip ever was with Martha, with Dawn and Young Hee, because what she has to undergo is way than what Philip had to do. He never had to tell, you know, Martha that he was pregnant and then leave her. No, instead he had to basically abandon Martha, but he did tell her all. Unfortunately, Elizabeth can't do this in any way she wants to, and basically she's forced to do this, and she doesn't really want to, and I think that's one of the reasons why I really loved this scene so much, and definitely one of the most intense scenes of this show. Not intense, but just emotionally effective scenes we've had so far. So after that, we get a scene that's just as sad, but not as effective, obviously. But basically, Stan stops by Philip's house for drinks, and he finally tells him all about Gad's death in Thailand, and how his boss was killed, and really what this has done to Stan. And you can tell this is kind of broke Stan, but what I love is that he's not just completely stopping what he's doing. You know, he's still looking into the Martha investigation. He's still an FBI agent, and the FBI thinks it was just a robbery, which of course it wasn't a robbery. We know what actually happened, and we don't get any further information about what that proposal was that the Soviets wanted to make with Gad, but I do think as the season goes on, we're eventually going to find that out. But Stan thinks that it was the KGB. He knows straight out that it definitely was the KGB. He doesn't think it was just a robbery. He tells her the Soviets are animals, and they do things that Philip could never imagine, except he can, obviously. And the best thing about this scene is, again, that Stan does not know that Philip is KGB, and it's something that is eventually going to become something that I feel like he's eventually going to find out. Now, this season, I don't think he's going to find out. I think it's going to be next season that he finds out. Because, again, that really is going to set the course for what season 6 is going to be, obviously. But Elizabeth returns, interrupts their chat, and it's a really effective scene because, again, Stan has no idea the person he's talking to is in fact KGB, and the person that just walked in is KGB. And after Stan leaves, Philip fills Elizabeth in on Gad's death, and he thinks that Stan is right and the KGB did in fact kill Gad. Now, they don't know why they would have done this, but they know that Gad was definitely killed, and he confesses to Elizabeth that Stan told him about Gad's trip, and he puts in his report to the center that Gad was going to Thailand, and basically that this was all, this was all planned, that Gad was in fact going to Thailand, basically, and Elizabeth heads to the church, visits Pastor Tim, and it's a really effective scene, what was going on there with Philip and Elizabeth, and the fact that he told her, and so she then heads to the church, and she visits Pastor Tim, and she confirms that he and Alice are, in fact, coming over for dinner, and that they are invited, and says that they even got Alice's favorite strawberry ice cream for dessert, and despite the fact what happened with Tim, you can see that Alice has kind of gone along with it. You don't necessarily know if Alice is as accepting of the situation, but she's kind of just going along with it, and Pastor Tim can tell that something is bothering Elizabeth, and she confesses that she and Philip have been under a lot of pressure lately, and there's a lot more than that, and I love what Pastor Tim says to her here. He says straight out that they can't solve anything, and that they aren't in control of anything, because no, think about it, Elizabeth's not in control of her situation at all. She can't do anything about her situation with what's going on between her and Young Hee and Dawn, because she has no control over that. She wanted to do things a lot more peacefully. Gabriel did not comply. That's what I think happened, at least. I don't think it was the bullshit that, oh, the KGB didn't, approve it. I think it was that Gabriel, in fact, did not comply, and he did not want things to not go his way. Things need to go his way, or no way at all, and he turned completely against her. Now, obviously, he didn't tell her that, but I feel like Elizabeth has the intuition that he definitely did do that, and I really love the way that scene was done, because, of course, Tim has really no idea. I mean, her saying we've been under a lot of pressure, that is a understatement. I mean, they had to leave the KGB for 7 weeks because they were under so much pressure. Obviously, their daughter has been investigating them, which, of course, they don't really know about, but I do love the way that scene was done, and something that's great about Tim and Alice is that, unlike Young Hee and Dawn, they actually know what's going on. Young Hee and Dawn, of course, don't know what's going on. Martha also knew what was going on. The only characters that don't know what's going on is Young Hee and Dawn, and I really do love that. and that's something I thought was really great here. So then we get a much-needed scene where Stan does decide to meet up with Oleg in the middle of the night, because remember that I think he did this because this is what Gad wanted him to do. Gad told him before, look, meet up with Oleg regardless, even though you don't really like the KGB, meet up with him, and he tells him that the FBI has a lot of interest in him, and there has even been talk about Stan blackmailing him, and that Stan might have, blackmailed him into this. And we know the hatred that Oleg has against Stan right now because of the fact of what happened with Nina, and we know the hatred that Stan has against most of the KGB because of Gad's death. And that's something I really love about this scene, is that these two really despise each other's sides, but they're still going to work together. And Stan rambles, tells Oleg about his old partner, Chris Amador. If you remember, Amador died way back in the first season, and he was killed by the KGB, and Stan says that he thinks the KGB killed Gad too, and he doesn't want Oleg on his conscience. Now, of course, we know that it wasn't the KGB. We know that Gad basically died trying to run away, and he doesn't want Oleg on his conscience, and he tells Oleg this is the last time that they're ever gonna see each other again. And then he shakes his hand and he leaves, and I don't really know if that's true. I feel like Stan wants things this is the last time, but I feel like these two are gonna eventually see each other again. I don't know when, but definitely that's gonna happen, and I definitely think that something else is gonna happen before then, because we're seeing all this Arcadian Oleg stuff for a reason. We haven't seen a ton of Arcadian Oleg, I definitely will say, and that's something I do like, is that's very rare that we actually do see Arcadian Oleg, especially Arcadia. We have not seen a lot of Arcadia in a while. Of course, we know that Oleg's with Tatiana right now, but as far as Arcadia goes, we've barely seen Arcadia. Oleg is, that is, though, we're seeing for a reason. I'm sure that he has his own plotting. He is, of course, still trying to help out Martha. We know that he's definitely connected to that. We don't know what he's really connected to, but I really enjoyed that. And then, after this, we get the pivotal scene that sets the course for this episode, where we see it's time for Pastor Tim and Alice's big dinner at Elizabeth and Philip's. Alice is helping Elizabeth finish cooking in the kitchen, and they're actually being really cordial to each other. There's no tension or yelling or anything, and that's one of the reasons why this episode is so great and why it lands so well, because of the fact that there is no yelling in this episode. It's all really just quiet conversations and really peaceful stuff, but Alice tries to apologize again for threatening them, and Elizabeth reassures her that if she was in her situation, she would have done the same thing, and I think it really does show that Elizabeth is sincere here, that she knows why this would happen. The doorbell rings, and then the one person that they probably did not want to show up, but they basically are forced to, is Stan. He dropped by off a movie for Henry to watch, and that's something I loved about the scene, is who answered the door? Henry, who is the only person that is still under the illusion that they're just a normal family, and that nothing really weird is going on with them, and that they just went to Disney World for 7 weeks because they wanted to, and they had that promise. He's the only one here that doesn't know what's going on, and it's something that is very important, because Elizabeth and Philip aren't thrilled when Henry invites Stan in for dinner, because really they just don't want him there. The fact that everyone there knows their secret except for Henry. But of course Henry doesn't know why they don't want him there, so it's awkward to say the least. But of course they are very, interested in what's going on there. And then we get the pivotal scene, which really sets the tone for the rest of this episode. And it really is something that I think we're going to be talking about for a few years. Probably one of my favorite scenes of the season is the dinner scene, without a doubt. There's so much going on in this scene. There's so much to get into. Let's just start off with the placing and where everyone is. I mean, if you see in this picture, Philip and Elizabeth are on opposing sides pretty much, because they are just very opposing in the way that they do things. We see Stan and Henry are next to each other. They're not the ones that don't know what's going on. They're the ones that, again, think they're a normal American family, which, of course, they're not. And then you have Paige and Tim and Alice right near Philip and Elizabeth, mainly because these are victims of what they've been through. That's kind of how I saw it, at least, and that's kind of like how the placing was done, which I thought was really cool, and I definitely really did enjoy that. But there really is so much tension just in this one scene. Now, obviously, it's not a lot. To Stan and Henry, this isn't really much of anything. They think it's just a normal American dinner, but there's a lot more going on here. The fact that Tim and Alice, they're very intrigued when they learn that Stan's in the FBI. They seem very suspicious that he's having dinner with Russian spies, of course. They don't realize that Stan doesn't know what's going on. But then, of course, you have Tim and Alice, who also, weren't exactly okay with this happening. They weren't really okay with Stan, with Philip and Elizabeth inviting them for dinner and everything. They weren't okay with them being KGB agents. They now know that Stan is against KGB, and it really is setting off this really new plot point that I really do like. But the one person I feel the worst for in the scene is Stan, because, again, he is under this illusion that nothing really is going on, that these are just his friends and they're his neighbors, and that's all this is. He doesn't really see much more to this than that, and that's something I really loved. I thought there was a lot of really amazing stuff here, and again, it's all just casual, normal conversation. I'm sure many Americans would have this conversation about Russian spies and KGB, because that was a big deal what was going on here, was the KGB and was the Americans and things like that. That was all about, you know, the 1980s were all about that, and this perfectly shows that. I really enjoyed that, and it's something that I think worked really, really well here. It works incredibly well in this scene, and works incredibly well in general, and the Americans does a great job of just adding tension just through a conversation. I absolutely love that, and it's probably one of my favorite scenes, not just this season, but probably the Americans has ever done. It's a perfect example of how they handle tension, and I just loved everything about this scene. But then we get to another really emotional scene, probably the most emotionally, you know, challenging and hardest scene to watch in this episode is this next scene. In many ways, this next scene is like the dinner scene, and the fact that the characters that are being, you know, having emotionally affecting in this scene, they don't really know the situation that's going on. The difference is that the dinner scene, it's all small, casual conversations, and this is a conversation, but it is not at all a small conversation. We see Philip does to Don's office. We see the next day, Philip goes to Don's office in disguise. He brings along Gabriel and another woman, I'm assuming is Claudia, is the other woman, and Philip introduces himself as Patty's brother and says they are Gabriel's parents, and Philip says that Patty is dead. Like, he literally says that Patty is dead, and really, we knew eventually what this was going to be, but nothing really prepared us for what the consequence was going to be and how Elizabeth actually opts out of this. Basically, not only the fact that Patty is dead, but that she killed herself, and obviously he pins the blame on Dawn and says that Dawn pays for the funeral, and basically that Dawn did this to her because of him wanting her to get an abortion, and Dawn heads to the bank with Philip to take out the money. They leave Gabriel and Claudia in Dawn's office, and once they're gone, Gabriel gets to work. They go through the filing cabinets of the computer, but there is so much amazing stuff going on in this scene. Mainly Dawn's shock, I think, is the one thing we care the most about, because Dawn is not even a character that we knew a lot about. He hasn't really been a character that's been focused on nearly as much as, like, say, Martha, or even, you know, I'm trying to think of other characters that we've had that have been their handlers. Even, Katie, even Katie, you know, last season, she had a lot more focus than Dawn and Yoon-hee ever did. In fact, they've kind of been the low point in the season. Not that they've been bad, but they've been kind of the low point. But you care so much for Dawn, because Dawn really did care about her, and he never really wanted to get himself in this situation. We know how bad he felt when he thought that he and Patty had sex, which of course they didn't, but she made him think that they did, and because of that, we knew eventually it was going to happen. I don't think Elizabeth wanted this to happen. Nobody wanted this to happen, but unfortunately, reality sunk in, and this is what had to happen, and nothing really will ever be the same for Dawn and Yoon-hee, and it's really sad to see. I think that scene was incredible, and definitely another example of how well this show handles, you know, things that aren't true, but making them seem as true as possible. We know that, you know, Patty didn't actually kill herself. We know Elizabeth isn't actually dead, but this scene really puts you under that illusion that she is, and you care just as much about what's going on there as for the rest of the characters. I really love that. I think it's incredible, and they just did such a great job with that. Sad to see Dawn and Yoon-hee's situation end, but it's very sad to see, and after that we see Philip heads home. He has semi-bad news for Elizabeth. They didn't find the level 4 codes in Dawn's office, but Gabriel copied all of his computer disks, so hopefully they'll find them in the files. And Elizabeth's obviously very bothered that this actually happened, because of course all they were trying to do was get that information, and she wonders if Dawn will tell Yoon-hee that Patty is dead, because, you know, she's really wondering. Of course, Yoon-hee doesn't know about Patty and Dawn and all, so she doesn't really know if this, you know, she feels like she's gonna ruin their marriage, and that gives us this terrific scene with Elizabeth where she's on the phone, and basically when she's on this phone, you can see just the guilt that she has on her face. You know, we know that she wasn't exactly responsible, that she really didn't have a choice, but she herself feels responsible. She feels like she could have fixed this. She feels like she could have turned this around, and that she really could have approached this differently, because of the fact that she never wanted things to go this way. She's, you know, she sees messages, she sees theirs from Yoon-hee. She sounds really upset. She cries that there's something wrong with Dawn. He's acting very strange, and of course, Yoon-hee is really the one I feel the worst for, because she has no idea what's going on. Elizabeth hangs up. She doesn't listen to the rest of the message, she just can't, and you can see, again, just like Martha, that even though this was supposed to be just someone she investigates, she genuinely cared for them, and she never wanted to get them in this situation. I love the way that was done. Amazing stuff there, and just a really affecting scene. This really was, I think, Carrie Russell's best episode of this season. And it's mainly because of just little scenes like this, like the look on her face. You can just tell how affected she is, and not just the big scenes, like, of course, what she did with Paige in that one scene, you know, in that episode where she's basically laying it on the line, saying, you know, this is what you have to do, you have to be a KGB agent, all this stuff. That was incredible. But it's scenes like this that really show how great of an actress she is. I absolutely love that, and that's one of the reasons why I think Carrie Russell is as great as an actress as she is, because of scenes like this. So after that really hard to listen to phone call, and also just the realization of knowing what's going on, and also Elizabeth knowing why this whole situation turned out, she heads to the church and she finds Pastor Tim in the basement working on the food pantry, and she says she just came to pick up Paige, and Pastor Tim heads upstairs to get Paige, but Elizabeth at the last moment stops him. She asks him for advice because she really just needs to talk to someone. Even though she isn't really, prone to religion, and that she really doesn't enjoy religion, as we know, this is not really something that she does. In fact, she doesn't really have values in that sort of sense. She just needs some guidance, and for once, she actually just needs someone to talk to, and I love seeing that. Basically, Elizabeth stops him. She asks him for advice. She wants to know what he does if he has something on his mind and can't stop thinking about it. And, of course, we know what she's talking about. We know, of course, the fact of Dawn and everything, because she can't really do anything about this, but she can't stop thinking about it. And Tim says that he prays for guidance, and Elizabeth confesses that she doesn't believe in God or religion, and Tim laughs that none of these things really matter. What matters is how they treat people, and he's really not wrong about this. That is what matters, that the fact they treat people, that really is what's going on. The fact that, they express this generosity towards everyone. But the thing is, Elizabeth didn't really treat Young-hee and Dawn right at all. In fact, she outright lied to them. The fact that she made Dawn think that he got her pregnant, the fact that she made Young-hee feel so bad, know something's going on with Dawn, she basically ruined their marriage forever, and Dawn's probably going to end up killing himself or something. We don't know what's going to happen there, but this is far from over. I mean, there definitely is more that's going to come up. There's going to be more that ends up happening in this scenario. I don't think this is the end at all. I feel we're going to get some news about Dawn. It's going to be really devastating, but there's really nothing Elizabeth can do with this, and that is the saddest part about this that we definitely see. And basically, I love the way that scene was done, but then we get really what sets up, I think, not just the rest of this season, but the rest of the show in general. Nothing is as pivotal as this next scene. Now, we knew this scene was eventually going to come up. I mean, this entire season, we've basically heard all this stuff that's going on with Paige and how she wants to know what Phil and Elizabeth do, but they've never told her. But finally, that fact that they've never told her and everything that they've hid from her finally comes to get them in this next scene, because we see Elizabeth and Paige. They're walking home. Paige is very worried about the tape that Alice made, and Elizabeth's certain that it won't be a problem, because of course we know that Alice made that tape to possibly rat them out, but Elizabeth is certain that this isn't going to be a problem. And Paige opens up to Elizabeth, gives her a little intel from Matthew. She tells her that there was a spy at Stan's job that went missing, and of course we know that that spy was in fact Gad. That's who it definitely was and everything. And basically, while they're walking in the car, they're in this very shady part of town, and you really get to see, Paige finally gets to see really all the answers she's wanted in this next scene, but never in the way she wanted to. We see two bums approach them, they taunt Elizabeth and Paige, and Elizabeth hands them her wallet, says she doesn't want any trouble, and she's really just, gonna let them go at first. But then, once they pull a knife on them, and Elizabeth busts out her spy move, she stabs him in the neck with his own knife, and you can just see the look at Paige's face. I mean, she never was told really what Elizabeth and Philip do, but she literally just found out everything that they do, and this is why they didn't want to tell her. We know why they didn't want to tell her, and we can perfectly understand that, but we knew eventually she was going to find out, and this is exactly what they didn't want to happen, is for Paige to find out, is for her to understand really what's going on. And now you can really tell that things will never be the same for Paige ever. I mean, now she really knows what she's capable of, she knows what eventually she's going to have to do, and I think that's the thing that really scares Paige. It's not just the fact that Elizabeth killed someone, it's the fact that Paige is thinking, holy shit, I'm going to have to do this, and that I'm going to have to do these sort of things, and I'm going to become this strong. I don't really know if I'm ready for this. And I've said it before, I don't really think Paige wants to be a KGB spy, but she's basically been forced to do this. She doesn't want to, but it really shows what Paige is going to have to do. A brilliant way to close this episode, and really sets up what the rest of the season is going to be, which is highly intense, and definitely, like I said, for that Jennings family, things will definitely never be the same. The way they're slowly coming apart is fantastic. I love that. Displayed very well in last week's scene, and shown even more, and for the rest of the season, and for the rest of the show as well. That's something that this show just does so well, is show how this family pretends to be a normal American family, but they are anything but normal, as displayed in this scene. Before I end this episode, I did forget to say one very major detail I completely left out. Stan and Adderhold, not Amador, I think Amador died. Adderhold, sorry, they're getting information about what's going on with Martha, and they find out that male robot, something definitely happened at that male robot's house, and they finally find out about Betsy's death. And the way that they're very slowly starting to catch up with what Phil and Elizabeth have been up to, it's really scary, because they're going to eventually find out really what's going on with Philip and Elizabeth, and that they are, in fact, KGB. Stan's going to have to come to that realization, what's going to happen there. It hasn't happened yet, but you know that it's definitely certain, and that really kind kind of scares us. I think it's very well done the way they did that. I absolutely love that, and it definitely sets up what is going to be a very crazy final 2 episodes. But this episode was amazing, guys. Obviously, I love this episode. There's so much crazy shit going on this episode, and I'm not at all prepared for the final 2 episodes of the season. What's going to happen? I don't know. I mean, really, it's going to be crazy to see. But now Paige knows what Phil and Elizabeth do, even though she wanted to know. I mean, they never wanted her to find out. This is exactly the reason why. The fact that she, they didn't want her to know what was going on. They knew how this would affect her, and they knew exactly what they do. They never wanted her to find out, and this is exactly why. She found exactly the wrong way, but that secret's now come to play, and there's really nothing they can do about it. The fact that she knows now, she knows. What's done is done. As much as they try to deny it, what's done is done. Elizabeth literally just saw her mother, go full-on samurai on someone and take out someone like that, and she never really knew what they were capable of. She always thought that they just got information, but they do a lot more than that. She knows that she's going to have to do that, and it's really affected her forever. And just the amount of stuff that's happening to this girl, I've said before, just give this fucking girl a break. Like, seriously, I mean, it's crazy what she has to undergo. But really, I mean, she didn't even sign up for it. That's the worst part, is that she didn't even sign up for this. She doesn't even want it, I think, yet she has to do this, and it's just a really terrible situation. Dawn and Yun-hee, I don't think the situation's over at all. I think eventually Elizabeth is going to get word about what happened to Dawn and Yun-hee. She's going to find out, what happened to Dawn. But I feel like just like Martha, Gabriel's going to be very low-key. He's not giving him a lot of details. We're eventually going to find out stuff. And I did hear that Martha is eventually going to come back into play in Season 6, but we're not going to find out till Season 6. I feel like the same for Dawn, that randomly Elizabeth's just going to find out. And I really do love that. I like that randomly they're just finding out details, because that is how it would work. It wouldn't just be a big episode all over it. It would be they just randomly find out things. I really do love that. That dinner scene, though, is so pivotal because there's so much going on in that scene. The fact that Tim and Alice know their secret, but Henry and Stan don't, is a big deal. Henry is eventually going to find out, okay? He's the only member of the Jennings family that doesn't know. He's bound to find out eventually. Either Paige is going to tell him or he's going to find out. I'm going to say now he's finding out by the end of the season. He is the character that is going to find out, because if Henry finds out, that's really going to send things into motion. Now, I still kind of have this idea that Paige is eventually going to turn against her parents. Why? She doesn't want to kill. She doesn't want to be a killer. Why does she want to grow up? How does she not grow up like them? She turns against them, and I feel like that's exactly what she's going to do. In fact, I think the show is going to end with Paige possibly joining the FBI. I could really see her doing that. I could really see her trying to go against them, because she doesn't want to be part of the KGB, and whether she's able to do that or not, I'm not really sure. That's going to be very interesting as well, but I really do see her not killing. I don't see Paige really capable of killing. I feel like they're going to have to teach her how to be, but I don't really think she wants to, and I feel like that's where this season's going to end, but we'll have to see what happens with that, because that's going to be very interesting as well. How that whole situation turns out, I don't really know. What goes into that, I'm not really sure either. That's going to be very interesting. And then as far as Gad goes, I mean, we know that obviously the KGB wasn't responsible. We know exactly what was responsible, and that was none other than that door that was responsible. The glass door was responsible. I mean, you can't blame it on the door, obviously. But yes, 2 KGB agents did scare Gad into it, and he died basically trying to run away, basically showing that he can't run away. And it's very much how Stan can't run away either. And that's something I really did love, is that Stan's not able to run away, because he's eventually going to find out. And in the same way that Gad was killed by the glass door, Stan can't run away because his neighbors are in fact KGB, and there's nothing he can really do about that. And I really love seeing that. I thought there was some really great stuff there, and they've really been doing that arc justice, I have to say. I really am loving the way that that's going. This season just continues to build and build. It's getting better and better as it goes on, and I'm just loving it more and more the more I hear it. I'm so happy that this show is getting, they got renewed for final 2 seasons. I'm glad they can close stuff out efficiently and not just have to rush it and be like, okay, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. No, they can close stuff out. They can tell this full story. That's why Justify works so well, and I think that's why this show is going to work out so well. But this episode was just incredible, and I'm sure they're going to be able to top it, because every week I say I don't think they can top it, but I'm sure they're going to be able to. I don't know how they're going to, but they will find a way, and I can't really predict what's going to happen in the show anymore just because of the way things are going. But yeah, so that's basically it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know what you guys thought of this episode overall. What do you think is going to happen with the final 2 episodes? How do you feel about the show being renewed for 2 more seasons? I think it is awesome they're being renewed for 2 seasons. What do you think is going to happen at the end of the season? Because I feel like someone is going to find out. It's not going to be Stan. I don't think the show would do that major of a secret, have that major secret come out yet. I feel like it's going to be just randomly, because I don't feel like this is a show where they randomly find things out. I mean, think about Paige, for example. She found out in episode 10. She didn't find out in the beginning or end of the season. season. It was episode 10 that she found out, and the last 3 episodes dealt with that. That really set the tone for this season. It really set the rising action. I feel like something like that is going to come up this season, and I feel like that major event now is Paige seeing her parents kill. That is that major event that she's seeing. Tim and Alice know. I don't feel like anyone else is going to find out. If anyone does, it's going to be Henry, but I feel like Stan's going to find out next season. That definitely is going to happen. I mean, the fact that the FBI is catching up to them, yes, it's scary to see, but I feel like it's not going to be a huge problem till much later, and we'll have to see what happens with that. But overall, guys, I know I'm rambling, but overall, let me know what you guys saw this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. I absolutely love this episode. Amazing stuff overall. Again, they just continue to impress me more and more as the show goes on. I always think I know what the show is capable of, and then they do this, and it's capable of more than I even thought. And I will see you guys in my next show, which will be for the season premiere of Bloodline, which I am hyped out of my mind for. I am so happy that show is back, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.